Hey everybody, this is Gil from Grace Audio, and together with my homeboy Seleman, we formed this thing called Grace Audio, and we want to shine light on people. We want to bring positivity, development, and share that with you guys. So we want to emphasize the person behind the face. Let's go, Grace Audio. Yes, welcome everybody to this podcast, and we can call it like a popcast.
Hey,
podcasting.
So listeners, viewers, we have two special guests over here, two good friends and colleagues, Mr. Leal Dino, aka Leal, aka Spectacular.
Oh shit!
Leal Dino,
I'm getting exposed.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.
He's throwing out the real names, the passport names, the government names.
Got it, man. And my homeboy Rajiv, aka Jivan, aka Jeef the Chief, aka Mr. Arm All Over the Place,
aka Sachin.
Yeah.
Ooh, bars.
Right. So today we want to talk about you guys actually, and especially your traveling. So I met you guys like 15 years ago, and for me and the listeners, it's probably very interesting to know where you come from as just like guys and your road that you went on to get where you are right now. So introduce yourself, Mr. Leal.
Cool. So my name is Leal van Herwaarden. That's my government name.
Yeah.
Also known as Leal Ratzi. Like Papa, like Gilbriano just said, we met like 15 years ago on the dance floor. And basically, I'm an artist and organizer in the hip hop culture. My background, like it's all over the place. But it basically all started in dance, and it all started in culture. It all started in Rotterdam. And I'm really a hip hop culture nerd. Like I love this culture. I grew up with it.
Right.
Black culture, African culture, Dutch culture. That shaped me to be the person that I am, and that brought me on a path to meet these two amazing people and a lot more. I'll keep it at that, and we'll continue.
For now.
Yeah.
For now, because he always has a lot to say. You got what I need. Yeah. My man, Rajiv.
Yeah, so my name is Rajiv. I'm 35 years old, born in Suriname in Paramaribo City.
Represent.
Yeah, I met you guys 15 years ago at the Hip Hop House, and this is a place where I started dancing for the first time. I actually was brought up in a pretty conservative, traditional Asian family. My dad is a Hindu priest, and I was raised with all the values of being, the son of a preacher man.
Right.
So, and then I came into contact with hip hop culture at the Hip Hop House, where I started dancing, and I never stopped.
Right.
Yeah.
Nice. So let's go further into that. But before we do, just a few simple questions. Leal, what did you eat this morning?
Hey.
Oh wow. Granola. A protein shake.
Hey.
And a whole lot of water.
Wow. So you're on the healthy
I'm
track.
hydrated like that.
Nice. Jeef.
Yeah, I had a sandwich with something that my mother-in-law made, like an egg mixed up with veggies and herbs, and it
sounds
was like
good.
It doesn't even have a name. It's just called that good stuff that your mama makes.
That's always good.
Yeah.
It smells good. It tastes good.
Yeah, and a cup of green tea.
Right.
Nice.
So on the healthy track too.
Yeah. Soul
little
food,
bit.
Soul food.
Hey,
healthy
some real soul food.
Yeah.
Nice. Okay, guys. Another question. What are your like quirks or things people don't know? And it might be nice to know, because this is all about the person behind the dancer, the person behind the businessman, the person behind the organizer, stuff like that. So what is your quirk, Leal?
Like some weird stuff, right?
Perhaps, or just something people don't know.
Let's start with Chief, because I don't want to start. Let's check what he has to say.
Yeah.
Can be weird stuff, or
Yeah, of course. Of course.
PG rated, but no. Okay.
yeah. Oh, what's my quirk? It's a difficult one, man.
Yeah. But only you know. You know what you do on the toilet. I don't know.
Hey.
So
Oh, if you have one, you can jump in. But I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah.
what do I do that people find weird? Is there something that I do that you find weird that people don't know about me? I think that a lot of people view me as someone that's really like calm,
Zen.
yeah, zen,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and nice. I'm always like this well put together dude that knows exactly what he's doing. But the people that really know me know that I can be quite a bully. I can be like, I can be in my head very chaotic, and I really like to how do you say, nag. I really like to when people when somebody makes a mistake when talking.
You want to emphasize it.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so it's like that. Okay, I didn't know it's a new thing, right?
Yeah.
I can be a real asshole.
So you can be like annoying in like a funny
very
way.
annoying, and I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Magnificent.
But it's
I think that's the thing that people don't know about me, or
Yeah.
at least don't expect, unless you really get to know me.
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Good one.
But in a funny way.
In a funny way,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I hope.
Yeah. In a funny way. In a funny way.
But I do.
Well, actually,
I do know you
Yeah.
like that because
Yeah.
from the first moment I met you, you were like an ambitious guy.
Right.
You had like a track in life which you wanted to walk very clearly, but you always knew how to have fun when communicate. Always thinking about jokes or the humor in things.
Right.
So it might stem from that,
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
And you're maybe a little bit naughty in that sense that you want to be on edge,
right.
also with your humor.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a nice thing.
I think it's something that I share with all of you guys.
Yeah,
Because that's the connection that we
Yeah.
find, like, of course in dance, but also with this
communicating.
this dark type of humor.
Yeah.
It's
Like-
almost like dissing each other, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
Not almost. It's like this.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
I want it to be subtle,
The
but
funny part is like a lot of people view our like clique
Yeah.
as very close and warm and very brotherly.
yeah,
Right.
But when you like really witness us like off cam,
yeah,
we're like dissing each other the whole day,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
da, da, da.
Yeah.
But that's the way we like express love towards
yeah,
each other.
yeah.
you
That's
know?
the bond.
Yeah, that's our bond. Like
Yeah.
we really like to make jokes.
Like from the early days.
Yeah, always have.
Yeah, and I think maybe our mentor has something to do with it because he
Yeah,
was
for sure.
really like that too,
For sure.
Yeah.
dissing us all over the place
Yeah.
and making us feel like insecure, and we're like, is he serious or?
Yeah.
So, but no, it's cool, man. It's cool,
Yeah.
interesting.
It's good that you mentioned that because of Lloyd Marengo, our mentor. Shout out Lloyd, Leslie, you yourself. Basically, I think what that did for us is like we can play games, we can diss each other, but we always know like underneath that it's love,
Respect.
Yeah, respect.
Right.
So we usually never take it personal. It's just like a back and forth kind of
Yeah.
thing, game we have with each other. Oh, this time I got you. Oh, next time you had me. So, but
That's my quirk, man. What about you?
Which one should I? I have a lot. I mean, I see a lot of similarities with what you just said. Like, I'm very much a person of extremes.
Right.
Like, some people know me as like a very calm, collected person too. But other people know me like, this very, very out there. How do I say it? Like, center of attention, club head, dancer.
Extrovert.
So some people know me like very introvertly, and other people know me more extrovertly. And
Really?
wait, which one confuses you?
Introvert.
Oh, that one confused you.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of times people feel like, oh, he's very calm, and I don't really know what's going on in his head, and he's very quiet. Like, I mean, you witness me sometimes in meetings and stuff like that. Like in a meeting, sometimes I can be very quiet because I feel like,
You observe,
yeah.
right?
For example, last Monday
Right.
we had a meeting, and you were like talking a lot,
Yeah.
and I was very quiet.
Yeah.
And only sometimes I, chip in and like, oh yeah, this or that. But other times I'm like, no, he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily have to add anything, but if I feel I have to, I'll do. So
Yeah.
Okay, right. So,
So-
your quirk is like what you said, being
yeah, it's
extroverted.
no, not necessarily being extroverted, but more like
Kind of depends on who you ask, right?
Yeah, it depends on who I ask. Like on one hand, you can find me in the club in the middle of the cipher, and on the other hand, you can find me in my house by myself with a book, and I love it.
Under a shower, bowling up like.
Yeah, especially that. Yeah. So actually, in my introduction, I already said it. Like, why you putting my secrets out there, bro?
Sorry, bro.
No. But on one hand, like I'm very extroverted, and on the other hand, I'm very much a nerd.
Let me ask you this: how does your mother perceive you? You think?
Also both.
Both.
Yeah. Even though she doesn't even know like how far I go into both, but my mom knows I'm both. Like she knows I was this quiet, shy kid who grew up in Spangen and would sometimes, just be there in the corner. And on the other hand, she also knows me as the guy that'll be like on stage talking to like thousands of people at once.
A lot like your dad, right?
Yeah, actually, it's good that you say this. Like my mom and my dad are two extremes. My mom is very much a homebody, like she likes to stay in the house and not too much. And my dad is like all over the place, like life of the party, the organizer, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I take after both of them.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, we'll get back to this because this is interesting. So now we're talking about culture, perhaps. So let's bring culture into our development. So what did culture, your background, do for your development? From like, because you were saying that you were like a shy kid.
Yeah.
I never would have thought that you were a shy kid. But everything is possible. So you were shy. Did that had to do something with your culture or your upbringing? Or Jeef, jump in if you want to. Talking about your culture, because for the listeners and the viewers, Leal, his roots, you can tell them yourself.
Yeah. So I was born and raised in Herwaarden in Holland, but my parents are from the Cape Verdean Islands, both of them. And I really grew up also with that culture. Like I speak the language fluently, so I speak Creole fluently, and my Portuguese is all right. And I grew up, with the music, the food, the rituals, the habits, So
can you tell about like one ritual or habit?
Yeah. So for example, like for Cape Verdean people, family, music, and food are huge, and that's for a whole lot of African or people in general, other cultures. But especially for Cape Verdean people, these are 10 very tiny islands. But when you see like the impact worldwide, music-wide, they have, it's huge. It's huge, like relatively speaking, So
not even relatively, it's just huge.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. And
people don't know.
No, people do not know. And like these are like African islands, and I can really tell like a lot of the things that also attracted me to hip hop culture are things that I have in my backpack from African culture. Like when it comes to, things like music, dance is very huge.
Expressing, right?
Yeah,
and the
it's
music.
very expressive. And also, small things like in hip hop we dance in a cipher, in a circle, and in Cape Verdean culture that's very that's what I'm used to. People coming together in a circle, making music, someone dancing, someone singing. Yeah. So that's really like since I was small, our house was kind of almost like a community center. Right. Like for a large part because of my dad. Yeah. So our house was the spot where a lot of other families and people came to. To get together and socialize, and we'd have loud music, we'd have food, we'd have people dancing, and this was like almost every weekend. Yeah. And I grew up in that. Yeah. So, and I was a shy kid, and I grew up with that. And my dad was like this popular guy, and my mom was like this introverted, but she was popular because my parents are kind of like, pretty known in the Cape Verdean community. Like
pillars.
I have to say yes. I mean, literally, a lot of Cape Verdean people, a lot of people in Rotterdam are in Holland because of my parents.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. and
Really?
people from my family, but also people outside of my family.
So they were probably like one of the first over here.
Well, not. I mean, they've been here for a long time, but they're not that old. There's a generation even before them.
Mm-hmm.
But
they made it possible
Yeah.
for people to come over.
my dad was kind of like, my parents were kind of like the plug,
Right.
you know.
Right.
So a lot of people were like, "Yo, if you're in Holland, connect him, connect her,
Right.
and they'll hook you up. They'll get you work.
Yeah.
They'll get you a place to stay,
Nice.
and they'll even get you your papers.
Wow.
Like that's how far I went, you know. So even till this day, like I'll be walking on the streets or something, and people will be like, "Hey, you are the son of blah 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 blah." Hey, tell you that. And people I don't even know, but they know I'm the son of.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Really dope. So
Yeah.
to make a link to yourself. So
Yeah.
actually, your father was like an organizer,
For sure.
and
Even my grandma.
He stood up for the community and he helped the community. So that's like a link to yourself, right?
100%.
So are you inspired by that?
For sure.
If you look at yourself right
For
now,
sure.
and did you develop skills from that? Did you mimic your father or
Yeah.
study your father, and or did it come like unaware?
I very much look up to my parents, both of them. Because my mom, on the other hand, like my dad is this guy. He naturally just does stuff, and he doesn't think too much about it. He just goes and does it. My mom, on the other hand, is like the thinker.
The thinker, right? Yeah.
She's like
Analyzing.
Okay, I'm gonna analyze this. I'm gonna study this. I'm gonna dive into this. And if you know me well, you know I'm both. So, partially aware and partially unaware, I took a lot of attributes from them. And in hindsight, when I look back now, I see more and more connections.
Right.
You know.
So what we can tell is your culture had a big impact on your development.
For sure. For sure.
Jeev, what can we say about your culture?
Yeah, well, it's not a similar story, but a similar impact. So my upbringing is a traditional Indian upbringing. It was not like an African based culture. And the Asian culture is different. It is much more introvert, and it's a very much it's a family culture where happiness is defined by success in education, having a wife and kids, buying a house, and stuff like arts and music are most of the time only seen during weddings or rituals, festivals, holidays, this kind of stuff. It's not really something that you aspire to do as a profession.
But on the other hand, not to cut you off, but you can. On the other hand, you have like the Bollywood culture, and a lot of people they look up to those people and they want to be like those people and they want to work in that industry, and it's so important that in every house you see those movies, and they all know the actors and the stars and the singers, and they all wanna be like them. So
no, but you're totally right. But there's a big difference between the Indian community in India and the Indian community in Holland, because we made a stop in Suriname.
Right.
So our background is that from India we came to Suriname as new slaves. Actually, we call that indentured labor, but actually it was a new form of slavery. And from there, when Suriname got their independence, a lot of the Indian people came to Holland. The thing is that the Indian people that live in Holland right now are not so much. They are influenced by Bollywood, as in they look at it as sort of like a soap opera. They can watch it and they feel it's beautiful, and they really put the Bollywood culture on a pedestal as if you're gonna dance, do Bollywood dance.
Right.
The thing with me is that the moment that I came into contact with hip hop culture, there was a real culture clash. Hip hop is a culture that's predominantly based on African culture.
Right.
It's a black culture, and as an Asian being a guest in a black culture, And in the beginning, not even realizing the position I was in at that moment, my Asian people were like, "So you're trying to be black?"
Really?
Yeah, for sure. That was a real thing. I mean, to this day, people ask me why I'm not dancing an Indian dance form. So that was a real culture clash. I mean, Leal knows about it. I mean, during the days that I was developing as an artist, I had a lot of discussions with the home front, because they're like, okay, we teach you something and we really see you. I mean, they were rooting for me to step in my father's footsteps in becoming a priest, you know.
Yes.
Actually, I did a lot of those rituals. I was almost there. But then I pursued a career in professional dance, and that was something that was pretty difficult for them to swallow. But I understand why. But your question was, did Asian culture influence the person that you are today, or the way that you move in hip hop culture? Very much.
Yeah.
Because even I'm in a performance right now. It's called Asian Celebration, and it's a hip hop show based on Asian culture. So I'm dancing the show with somebody from China, from Indonesia, from Vietnam, and from India, and we're all from hip hop culture.
Interesting.
So it's so amazing to see that an African-based culture makes its way all over the world. Asian people getting influenced by it and adopting it as their own. And what I feel now is that hip hop culture, of course, it is a black culture originally, but now it's becoming a global culture.
Right.
And that's the most amazing thing, you know. So
very amazing.
Yeah, for me, that's full circle.
Yeah.
Right. And I hear some kind of resistance, because you came from another set of values, and you were pursuing, like, for fun at first, this certain dance, in your case hip hop / poppin'. Right. And then you got a lot of recognition, and you developed your style, and you train and you practiced, and there was like a whole nother set of values. How did you cope, or how did it develop you as a person, making choices? Because when you step out of the house, now you're like Rajiv, the hip hop head or the dancer. And when you step into the house, you're like the PK, like the preacher's kid.
Right.
How did you cope or deal with that, and how did you develop?
Well, actually, I kind of see it as being forged by, you know, when you forge a sword, it gets a lot of beating.
Right.
But in the end of the process, it's really strong, and
right.
you can fight with it because it's so sharp. And the moment that I came into hip hop culture, I experienced the difference between what's in your head and what's in your heart.
Right.
Yeah, because what you tell me is what's in my head. You can tell me that you need to pursue a career as a doctor, but the moment that I'm on the floor and I feel people from Afghanistan, people from Java, people from the Cape Verdean Islands, that I connect with them in a way that nobody else is telling me that that's a possibility, it opens up a totally new world. You're like, wait a minute, this is also possible? This is also reality? And then you start to question your own set of values that you've been taught, you know?
Yes.
So what I did is, through experience, I made my own values, or adopted values that I was hearing from people in the hip hop culture, and I was testing it into the Asian culture. Like, okay, but does it resonate? Does it resonate?
Can you have
an example?
Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the examples is, for instance, stick to your own kind.
Right.
Right. So with the people that you have a relationship with, can be friendly, can be a romantic relation, whatever.
So this is from the culture you got from home.
From home,
right?
Yeah, and they very much were steering me towards try to be with as much as people that are like you, like Hindu people, right? But then I step into the hip hop house and I see the United Nations over there.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel that I'm friends with everybody who has a similar mindset.
Right.
So I feel that connection is not based on ethnicity or cultural background, but it's based on mutual understanding, respect, and in our case, it was art. The
Right.
passion for something that we all appreciated for how it felt and how it looked.
Mm-hmm.
And this was for me the real test. I'm like, hey, wait a minute, but at home they say I should not be hanging out with all these different type of people,
Mm-hmm.
but in reality it feels that I can, and actually it makes me richer as a person.
Mm-hmm.
So this made me very critical on what I was learned at what I was taught at home,
Mm-hmm.
and I rejected it, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. And so you grew up with a set of values, and you at a certain point you choose to do some things for yourself
Mhm.
and not for your parents or your culture.
Mhm.
From the inside, I can imagine that your heart is fighting your brain, right? Because if you rationalize everything, your path is not your path.
Right.
Right, but still you managed, and still even the first moment I met you, I was like, this is like a really open guy and a really social guy, and it's right like the opposite of what you are telling right now.
Yeah.
When you were taught from your culture at home.
Yeah.
But we can say it is in you, in your character, to be like that. But how did you develop that
Yeah.
part of your character?
Yeah, it's very, very interesting because I really believe that I developed this, well, you can call it the quality,
Mm-hmm.
because of my culture,
Right.
Asian culture.
Mhm.
Right.
I really think so.
Mhm.
Because when I was like 10, 11 years, I started reading the philosophical scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
When I think back, I was like really young, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading like the Gita, this is one of the Hindu scriptures.
Yeah.
And at a really young age, I had this understanding that the figures described in these mythologies are blue.
Mm-hmm.
The color of Krishna is blue.
Right.
So if you think of something divine as with the color blue, I was thinking, wait a minute, but it doesn't say brown, it doesn't say white, it doesn't say black, it doesn't say, it's blue.
It's blue.
So
yeah.
it's not defined as a color.
Mm-hmm.
So this is how I was interpreting it.
Right.
The people around me were interpreting like, no, it's only Hindu people, but it never said Hindu people.
Mhm.
In the scriptures, it was saying, don't identify yourself with your thoughts, with your emotions. Don't identify yourself with your culture, even
Mm-hmm.
with your religion. Identify yourself with your soul. What's
Wow.
inside?
Mhm.
This is like some deep shit, man.
Yeah.
In these scriptures,
Mm-hmm.
and I was translating it like, wait a minute, if it really says what it says, and if it's true, it means that what I'm experiencing in hip hop culture,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense.
Right.
It doesn't make sense that these scriptures only apply to a certain set of people,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Asian, Indian people.
Mhm.
No, it never said so. It
Mhm.
never implies that it's belonging to us. No, it's for mankind.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's when I really started like, okay, then I have to fight for this. I
Nice.
really have to fight for it, because then I thought like, if this is the truth and I believe it, and I could only believe it when I was experiencing it,
Mm-hmm.
then I became like a soldier, because then for me it felt like, yo, I'm upholding my tradition
Mm-hmm.
by opening up to everyone.
Nice.
Mhm.
Nice.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's
yeah.
kind of it's almost, it seems like a paradox, but it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
The Asian tradition, if you go into the pure essence of it,
Mm-hmm.
is about openness. It's
Yeah.
about not making
Boxes.
boxes,
Yeah.
you know, going outside of it and accepting everybody around yourself for who they are.
Mhm.
Nice.
I also remember like there was this period that you were very like conflicted about this,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because on one hand you were like, yo, this culture, this religion, or has so much richness in it,
Mhm.
so many beautiful stories, ideas, and on the other hand you was like, oh, but I've noticed so much
Racism, even.
racism in the people
The people.
Mm.
Yeah.
that I remember that you were kind of repulsed by it, that you were
Yeah.
like,
Mhm.
I'm not sure about this, and you
Mhm.
kept on studying, diving deeper into it, and then you came, I think, to this point that you were like, yo, the way you guys are interpreting this is different than the real thought, behind the, below the surface.
Sure. Well, actually, for me, it's like this. If you call this the truth, right? Yeah. And you present it to me and say, yo, this is the truth. If it's the truth, it doesn't matter if I call this a phone or if I call this a glass. It doesn't matter. It's about what is the physical, what is the thing, what does the truth consist of. So if I go away from the truth, if it's real, I'm gonna come back to it. You can't escape truth. So for me, it was like, okay, you call this Hinduism. If Hinduism is real, if it's the truth, it doesn't matter if I'm in hip hop culture, Cape Verdean culture, or Japanese or Afghan culture. It doesn't matter. I will meet the truth there as well. Right. If I don't meet the truth there, it's no truth for me. So I took steps away from it, away from religion, away from culture, and what I found was the truth.
Right. Wow.
And then I was reflecting back, like, okay, that also resonates with me. And when I came back, I thought, this is what Hinduism says. Okay, now I can fuck with it.
Yeah. Okay, Rajiv. So I can imagine that finding the truth, or your own truth, or your perception of the truth.
It's a perception,
that you had a lot of discussions at home about truth, right? Because there's different generations, there's different perspective, there's a lot of differences, and from the resistance you probably developed even more, right? Because you got that resistance and you got the urge to research because you want to find your own truth, right? And you came to the point that you found it. Leal, did you find some truth in your culture or religious background, and how did that impact you? Because you, in my opinion, you are someone who always has an opinion and who is always able to communicate it. Maybe better even now than back then, because I can imagine that when we were younger, the egos were bigger, and when we were getting older, the egos get smaller, and living from your heart and soul is getting more important because you're getting more and more grounded, I think. What's your story on that? What is?
Well, you actually hit the nail on the head when you said about being opinionated, because Cape Verdean people are known as the Silent Migrants.
Right.
So they're the, you have these groups in Holland. You have the Surinamese, you have the people from the Dutch Antilles, the Turkish, the Moroccans, and you have, in Rotterdam specifically, the Cape Verdeans. Right. And they kind of fly under the radar. And you never really hear them,
True.
That's especially like the generation of my parents. They were like, okay, I come to this country, I just work, I don't complain. No, life isn't always fair, but this is what it is, and I'll just keep my head down and go for it. And my generation, and me in particular, I very much went the other way, in the sense of I never feel like, I'm a guest in this country, so I can't say anything or I can't complain about any injustice. No, I'm like, yo, I'm a citizen of the world. I'm a citizen of this country.
Right.
And I will get, and we will get what is ours. We will get justice. We will get equality.
Did you have this feeling back then already?
Not the same way, but ever since I was a kid, what my parents always tell me, like, I was very, very opinionated. Even though I was shy, and like even when I came into hip hop house, the more shy side of me. But I was very strong on justice. Like I remember even when I was like 5 years old, I'd fight older kids because they stole my sister's ball. And I'd be fighting like kids that were bigger than me. Like back then they were bigger now.
Yeah.
Long time ago.
Way back.
6 foot ago.
Yep.
But that I always had that in me. Like I could not keep my mouth shut if something was not honest.
So that was already a strength.
Yeah, that was there. But I had more insecurities and I was more quiet. And when I grew older, and a lot is because of hip hop culture, is because of the people around me. You know, I grew more comfortable in my skin, and
Nice.
I became more verbal about things, and yeah, so that did change, and that is like a big difference when you compare it to my parents, who also grew a lot. And the interesting thing is like, obviously they were the biggest influence on me, but the other way around, you can see the influence of their kids and the times on them too. So sometimes I feel like, you know, I'm the dad in this relationship.
Really,
Dad?
Yeah.
Dad, you were supposed to go to the gym today. Or Mom, you told me you were not gonna eat that. Or Mom, did you, like, you know?
Yeah.
And now we have like this funny dynamic where my parents are still really my parents, but I feel like the respect and the trust from them, like if they run into something, I'm the first one they call.
Oh, that's nice.
I'm like their backup now.
That's nice.
And that's like that feeling is amazing to me, because like whatever happens, they're still like my main backup. I mean, they're more my backup than I'm theirs, but that I can be there for them, like they've been there for me all my life. That's like the biggest blessing ever for me.
I can imagine that. And is that something that's culturally based, or is it?
Yeah. Now that you say it, it kind of is. Like in Cape Verdean culture, it's very normal also to have like your grandparents
In your
living
house,
with you. Yeah.
right? Yeah.
And like when
Can you imagine that?
No, no.
Nope.
But the thing is, like, no, I love my parents, you know. But
Of course.
like, you know, we grow up in the Western world. It's different, you know.
Yeah.
So ever since I was small, I was like, I don't know, you're living in my house. I don't know.
Yeah.
But in different ways, I am that backup from them too now.
Nice,
you know, so.
nice that you can do something back for your parents, because they work hard to give us a good future, coming into this country, developing themselves, working hard with their hands probably, and having to deal with a lot of things like discrimination, stuff like that, and we are that product. So I can imagine that it's a blessing for you to do something back for your parents. Jeef, how is that for you? Within your culture, because I know the Indian culture a little bit, and it's also known that even in the Suriname or Japanese culture, it's common to have your parents living at your house at a certain age.
Yeah, so my parents still live by themselves in the house that we grew up in, and it's similar to what Leal said. I'm always the one that flies over when something needs to be done.
You still do, right?
I still do, man. I still do. Yeah, I got a good relationship with them. I mean, it has been rocky, but you know, which relationship hasn't? And we've grown now to a situation where I can really support them emotionally. You know, I can talk to them, have like good discussions with them.
Nice.
Yeah, we don't always agree on all the stuff, but
you respect it.
Yeah, I respect it, and you know, it is what it is. And it's also very nice that you can help them out sometimes financially, you know. And
so now you're making the big bucks, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, big bucks. I mean, it's yeah, but it's nice that you when that you can give them some financial aid when
of course
they're short.
Of course,
and you don't have to really like sweat about like, oh shit, this is a big problem. So this is very I'm very grateful that I'm in the opportunity to give back, because they did so much for us. You know, I have an older brother, and you know, my dad was working a minimum wage for all these years, and my mom was a household mom. You know, she didn't have a job, and they took very good care of us, and I love them to death for that. So it's good that we can give back now.
So what I hear from both of you guys, and from my situation, it's really similar. There's more equality in the relationship, I feel, and I hear, and it's very nice because now you can support each other and know what's going on in their particular lives, and they know about your lives, and maybe it's very different than their lives or experiences, but they do respect it, and you do respect what they gave us or they gave you, right?
For sure.
Maybe you don't agree with everything, but you understand it, and they don't agree with you guys on everything, but they understand it more. right?
Yeah, and even if they don't understand, I think we're at that point now that we can agree to disagree.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
Right.
and because I also understand that having the upbringing they had in the surroundings they were in,
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that you would have a certain type of mindset. You know,
Yeah.
the people around them were also influencing them in so
course.
many ways. And now we have the internet. We've got so many
For sure.
influences from all over.
Mhm.
I mean, they were probably also like totally different people if they were being brought up in
this time.
this time and in
Mhm.
this country. You know.
Yeah.
True.
So I try to see it from their perspective and try not to judge them.
Mhm.
And that was difficult in the beginning because I was like, how can you think like this?
Yeah.
You know, how can you be like
Mm.
this? And I
The
was
gap
really-
is big, right?
The gap was very big, and
Yeah.
there was no understanding. Also, not from my side. You know,
Mhm.
Yeah.
that
Mhm.
was something that I also, have worked on trying to understand and see their perspective and create empathy on why they think how they think and are who they are. You know?
Mhm.
Nice guys to hear and to see that the culture is in your DNA and in your thinking, but also that you develop your own set of thinking,
Yeah.
but inspired by what you got from your
Yeah.
first reference, right?
Which is hip hop, right?
Which is hip hop.
We're sampling
Street
the culture.
Yeah,
hip hop,
something.
right?
Yeah, we're sampling it and adding something new, improving it where we think like, oh, we'd like to go that way, you know.
Right.
And our kids will hopefully, take some of our stuff
Mhm.
and make it even better, you know.
Mm.
Right.
Because like basically what you said, like even the fact that we can in some situations maybe be more open-minded than our parents,
Mhm.
it's a luxury.
Yeah.
We're standing on their shoulders.
Yeah.
It's because that my mom and dad like literally threw hours, decades away of their own dreams and happiness, so I could basically be free to chase mine.
Right.
You know.
So
Because-
we're very privileged, right? It's a privilege
Hell
to do
yeah.
this.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So we're gonna stick a little bit with this culture thing, but we're gonna like throw this line out through dance and hip hop. How did your culture directly influence you guys on your dance and your thinking of hip hop, on your movement? Because I can imagine that the Cape Verdean culture is like, you have like a passada, you have like social dances, partnering, expressing to the beat, African beats. There's always, like every weekend there's some social event where everybody is expressing, like you already told us. Somebody's always playing music, somebody's always singing, somebody's always dancing, and somebody's always cheering. And it looks like
And
the-
eating.
and eating, of course, that that brings everybody together.
Yeah.
And for Rajiv, it's from what I know, the Indian culture, food is important because it brings people together. But the Indian dance is a thing. The Indian music is a big thing. So, like melody wise and rhythmic. What can we say? Because when we're talking about Indian dance, it has specific movements, and Cape Verdean dance or African influenced dance has specific movement. How did those things culturally, but also from a movement or moving like our bodies, how did it influence you guys?
Yeah, well, I had a very interesting discussion with a dude from Cambodia who was researching dance. And as we know, dance is most of the time an expression of a culture,
Mhm.
and the culture always exists in a type of environment.
Mhm.
So you would see that dances from the more Asian countries were inspired by the nature
Mhm.
that was where the culture was growing. So for
Mhm.
instance, in Indonesia, you have very much dance inspired by flowers
Right.
to make it very aesthetically beautiful.
Mhm.
Very slow stuff. You see almost animated motions.
Mhm.
The lines are very perfect. You know.
Yeah.
So it comes from that type of nature.
Mhm.
And when you go to the more African countries, then you see that a lot of hip movement is involved. you
Right.
know. It's more um, yeah, I don't want to say the stuff that you see in nature in African countries is different stuff that you see in the nature in Asian countries.
What is the difference for you? You?
I think even certain types of animals that you see in African countries and certain types of animals that you see in Asian countries, the flora and fauna is different.
It's different.
Yeah, it's very different.
Yeah.
Even if you look at an elephant, if you look at an African elephant, it's more robust, it's big, it's in volume much more. And
they have like the big ears, right?
Yeah.
And the Asian elephants have like the small.
Much more small, you know?
Yeah.
So this is maybe something that doesn't seem relevant, but it is.
It is.
Even when I look at myself, I mean, I have an Asian body, so I excel in detail. I excel in making illusions. I excel in stuff with my upper body, but the ground is not something that I'm very strong on. I'm not very much rooted in the floor. But when you look at African tribal dances, for instance, it's very much rooted in the ground.
Yeah.
And it has a very different type of energy, more robust, powerful, explosive type of energy, which gives a whole nother flavor to the concepts that you see in popping.
Yeah.
So this is very interesting to me to see how culture and DNA in this sense is influencing the way that the dance is being expressed. So I think it counts for every one of us, and in this way, I mean, we call it popping, but when it does matter who is performing the act of popping, you see immediately. I mean, and that's really dope to me. So it has influenced me a lot, and not even by choice.
Right.
You know?
So how did you integrate your culture or your thinking state of mind into your dance? Did you just jumped in and just went, or were you aware of that?
I think it's layered. I went in by first studying the EBs, you know, and trying to imitate Salah as much as possible, trying to imitate Mr. Wiggles as much as possible, you know, buying the DVDs, doing hours of practice, and just rewinding YouTube, and you know, reading up on the
Was there a YouTube back in that day?
I think so.
Yeah, like when we started YouTube,
it was like in the beginning.
A few years later, it was actually more like
with the cable, right? It was with the cable.
Yeah.
Or not? Yeah. With the phone cable, right? Yeah. With the phone cable. Yeah.
I mean, like when we started, YouTube was not really popping, but it's actually like a couple of years later that YouTube kind of started growing, because in that time we had also
the website Still the
website
Earth.
Style the Earth, Wiggles board.
Yeah.
True.
We had even like
from
news group.
Gaza downloading videos.
Yeah. True.
All these kinds of things, you know.
But I remember the DVDs, right? So we were like coming out of the DVDs into the YouTube world, right?
Yes.
This was pre-Instagram, pre-Facebook.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
True. Leo, how did your culture influence you within your movement? Because Rajiv is telling about the differences from the Asian culture, and the Asian culture is very big, because I'm Asian too, but it's like very different. And
I think the same goes for African culture. It's there are similarities, of course. It's a huge continent, and every country, and even in a country, every region or every tribe has their different dances. And if you look, you know, the Cape Verdean Islands is kind of strange because it's not on the mainland, so it's 10 islands off the coast of Senegal. You know, and we're very much influenced also by Portuguese and European culture, so it's kind of like a mix. And one thing you notice is the social aspect is huge. You know, and also what Jeff said, like the more grounded, you know, hip movement, shoulder movements, you know, basically round rolling type of movements, and not much, you know, very linear staccato detailed movements. And one of the interesting things you see now, for example, Kizomba is like a big, huge dance in the world, but also in Holland, it's very popular.
But it stems from.
It stems from West Africa, specifically Angola, but it also passed over to the Cape Verdean Islands, and that's where it got even more popular.
Yeah.
So a lot of like the better known Kizomba artists are from the Cape Verdean Islands.
Yeah.
And one thing you notice is like in Holland you have like urban Kizomba, which is very isolated, linear, and very staccato.
It's very different than
It's
the traditional.
very different than traditional.
Yeah,
and I grew up, like for me it's weird to see that nowadays, because for me that's like, oh, this is just the music my parents played when I was little.
Yeah.
You
Like
know?
samba, stuff like that.
And
Zouk.
for other people it's like, oh, we're gonna go to salsa class, kizomba class,
Yeah.
blah, blah. And sometimes I'll go somewhere and people will be like, oh, what are you doing here? And I'm like, huh? This is my culture.
Yeah,
like,
you are actually in my culture. What are you doing here?
Which is fine. It's just funny,
of course.
because and what you notice is like, one time I wanted to learn, Kizomba urban, so I actually took a course, and they keep telling me like, yo, it's too big and you have too much body motion and you're too bouncy and too groovy and and I'm like, huh? Yeah, you have to be more like this.
Yeah.
And I was like, but this feels very staccato, very European ballroom.
Yeah.
They're like, and I still love it.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
It's a watered down version or something, right? It feels a little bit like
It feels like you, the soul is taken a little bit out of it.
Okay.
But technically speaking, like shapes and forms and patterns are like next level. But the soul's out of it.
Yeah.
And one thing I've noticed in all of my dance, always, you guys know me, like, I'm very, dynamic and explosive and high
Like
energy.
spectacular.
But we're gonna bleep that out now. But and I think that has to do also with that. Like, even when I see other dance styles, if I feel like what I gravitate to, like when I see Afro dance, when I see dancehall, when I see bobbling, when I see all these types of, shoulders, chest, hips, grounded, feeling, the dances that give you stank face, like you go like, ugh.
Like
That's
nasty.
what really hits me.
Yeah.
Even in popping, like I like, all the styles, and I like to delve into different styles. But I always steered more towards like the big, the explosives, the dynamics, and the funk-oriented styles were more my thing than the very isolated, robotic, which I love. But even when I do robot, it has a little bit of oomph. I like to throw a bop in it.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wouldn't just do like the mannequin. I'd be like,
Yeah.
That I feel like the
and so
Mama Africa.
so that comes from your culture, you think?
I think so, because that's what I gravitate naturally towards. But that's also what I started seeing patterns.
Right.
And even when I talk to like OGs like Hitmaster Fish,
Right.
Popping Pete, and whatever, Fish, a lot of times will say like, okay, y'all Dutch poppers, y'all got the technique down, but sometimes I don't care too much about being
Technique.
that clean. It just has to be raw.
Raw,
I have to
right.
feel it.
Yeah.
And that I feel that. I'm like,
Yeah.
And what you see like now in European countries, the dance came here and a lot of people got very scientific with it.
The dance nerds.
The dance nerds, and that sometimes, takes the soul out of it.
But on the other hand, if you are scientific about it,
It
then you
elevates
study
other
the history too. You have
Sure,
to, right?
Sure. And the thing is, like I said earlier, like I'm a nerd for the dance too. But some things are not to be told, but are to be felt. So some things, like I can explain to you all day, like, okay, if you do this angle and you do that stop and you drill this 100 times, it'll be super clean. But sometimes that's not really where it's at. And that's what I learn now a lot from OGs, but also other people, Rashad, Future, these kinds of guys. They're like, don't go too deep into that. Keep some gangster, some funk. And a lot of the funk, if you really look at funk, a lot of it has to do with these round movements, these grounded movements, these not so staccato shapes. And
Like
that's
grooves.
what I know from my grooves.
Grooves,
That's what
right?
I know from my culture.
From the soul, right?
Yeah.
So can we say that growing up in this culture, in this hip hop culture, for you, Leal, it's your expression is like it had to do with being more in your face, being more dynamic, being more expressive on that course. And for Rajiv, it's more like details, animating, being expressive in that kind of sense. Is that what we can say about
Form-wise.
form-wise?
Form-wise,
Right.
I think you can
Okay.
say that,
Is there another wise?
Well, yeah, I mean, I was just listening to what Leo was talking about, and I really resonate with that in a sense that what comes out is something that started within. Right?
Nice.
And that's why I also really gravitate towards, okay, so you're doing forms, of course, but the form is coming out because you have a certain type of intention. It's an expression of something that is inside, and try to feed that.
Right.
Because if you feed that and you express that in a certain way, then it's always correct. You know, and I think this is something that the OGs are talking about, like, hey, keep the rawness. Of course, we can study the angle, what is the anatomical position that my shoulder needs to be in to make it a perfect dime stop. But if the idea is there's a certain feeling, there's certain emotion in the music, and you want to make it animated, and you just go like, ha! Because you felt it, then that's an honest expression of what was inside
At that moment.
at that moment.
Right.
That's what makes it magic. Because that moment
And personal, right?
and personal,
Yeah.
And it's expression of the self.
Right.
So I think in that sense, me and Leo are doing the same thing, but what comes out is different, of course.
Right.
Because one thing I clearly remember is, especially back in the day, you know, Chief already said, like, we had all these, you know, DVDs and stuff like this, you know, and I remember, like, Chief always had his own very different type of movement, and you know, it was, oh yeah, that's mad creative, like, you come up with all these blah blah blah. And I remember, like, in the beginning, you were kind of focused on learning the foundations, you know, popping the way we know popping, we think popping is supposed to look like, and you were trying to force yourself to fit a certain mold.
Exactly.
And I was like, yeah, that's cool. You want some of that, but you don't have to go all the way there. Like, because if you go all the way there, you start looking like everybody else, and you lose what makes you so special.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I think later you started embracing more of, oh, this is what makes me me.
Right.
And what's also interesting, what you said earlier, you start to see connection with the culture you know, you're originally from, and I think that's basically what the OGs were talking about. Like, you have to dance from the inside out and not from the outside in.
Right.
And that's basically what they did.
Yeah.
You know, of course you have foundations to a certain style, but hip hop is sampling culture.
Yeah.
You have a big, you know, pot of soup. Okay, first you arrive there, your belly is empty. You have to eat, so you take something out.
Yeah.
And you start growing, you get stronger, you become your own person, and then you start thinking, oh, but what can I put back into the pot? You can't just keep taking out of the pot.
No, you have to put some beans in there too.
If you never put something back in, the pot will be empty after, you know, a certain while. And that's, I think, what hip hop is, you know. It gives you a blueprint, like, yo, these are certain ways to go about it, but add your own. Because that's, in the States, that's always what happened. Like, different crews, different cities, different areas of the country. Like, even in one city, different neighborhoods would have different styles, different moves. People would have their own signatures, but they also had the same foundation.
Right.
You know, and I think if the whole world started approaching it more like that, and with the whole world, I also mean myself, all of us.
Yeah.
You know, because sometimes, I mean, I talked about Future and Rashad. I'd be talking to them, and they'd be like, okay, but what about your own styles here in Holland?
Yeah.
And I'd be like, oh wait, most of us were doing all American
Yeah,
African-American
exactly.
styles.
Yeah.
And for some of us, like, I mean, of course, I have my own, Cape Verdean, and you have your own Indian and whatever, and they'd be like, yo, but that's so dope.
Mm-hmm.
Why don't you put that in?
Yeah.
And later I told them about bobbeling, which is like really,
A
Dutch thing.
Yeah.
And they were like, yo, this is crazy.
Easy, yeah.
Y'all threw this away? You need to bring this back, And
Yeah.
then I started to think like, okay, how awesome would the world be if everyone like really embraced their own thing,
Yeah.
and we all became creators instead of just followers.
Yeah. I can remember the early days when we were getting like inspired by our mentor Lloyd. He was like really flexible.
Yeah.
Flexible waves. Everything has to be. His chest came up to his nose and stuff like that. Like really flexible. And
everybody wanted to be like him.
yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
I was like, shit, man. It doesn't fucking work.
And his expression was so strong.
Yeah.
His character was so strong. He didn't had to move a lot, but his character was so strong that the thing he was doing, even if it was so minimum, that it was very expressive.
Yeah.
And I learned a lot about that. But then our second influence, Hitmaster Fish, came in, or for me, the second big influence was Hitmaster Fish, and he came with robotics and stuff like that. And I remember incorporating that into my style, but also remembering like the because I stem from the Suriname culture, the Japanese culture, and we did a lot of salsa and merengue and stuff like that. But I also grew up as a kid with indeed bobbling and New Jack swing. And when I did New Jack swing footwork or bobbling, and up top I was doing popping, then our crew member, your little brother Jill, he was like, yeah, do that. Do your robot stuff is nice, but if you do that, I feel that. And that is a good example how if you incorporate what you already have and develop it and throw it into what you want to develop, in this case hip hop or popping, then it really works. So coming to this conclusion, because we're already like more than an hour in, it's really fast, so we might have to do like a part 2, because there's a lot to talk about, because we only touched like the dance stuff and not even went really deep, but you guys do like a lot of different stuff, and very interesting and very inspiring for me and for other people. So we might have to do like a part 2 someday. But can we conclude for now that coming from where we come from, our culture, that the person you guys are right now, that how much of the guys you are right now had to do with your history, because we all had to fall down and stand up again, and we all had to be confronted culturally, emotionally, physically, because you said you have like a different body than me or Leo, and you have to work with that and get the most out of it. Can we say that the place you were back then, like in your like 20s, right? If you look at the place you are right now, personally, is it where you want it to be? Is it what you expected? Is it what you aspired to be, or is it totally different? Let's close with those thoughts.
That's a good question.
Well, I never thought that I would be in the position that I'm in right now, because I didn't even know that these possibilities existed. We were talking about our parents, and that our parents that were standing on their shoulders, and I'm sure that our parents back in the days that they were our age, they would never even know about the stuff that we're doing right now. So I feel a little bit like them. I feel a little bit like I'm in a position now which is very privileged, of course, but when I was 20, I would never even imagine I would have been doing what I'm doing right now. So the question. What was the question again? Like,
The question.
did I surpass my own expectations? Or
Yeah,
did
yeah,
I
so something like that. Yeah.
I think I really achieved what I wanted to do back then, but what I wanted to do back then wasn't so much.
Yeah.
That was pretty easy.
So it wasn't that hard.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you tell me what it was that you were wanting to reach as a goal?
So
Back then
in my 20s, I thought that I would have a practice somewhere, because
Physical therapy.
I'm a physical therapist, which I have.
But you have, yeah.
Yeah, which I don't work in.
Successfully.
Yeah.
Because you don't even work
I'm not,
there.
I mean, I work for the business, but I'm not one of the practitioners. I have.
That's bossing, yo.
Yeah, I have a team of practitioners who's working there. So this is really really cool. I have a foundation that.
But you worked hard, right?
Yeah. It's been
a long road.
Some hours in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Some hours, he said.
yeah. I have a foundation which I'm doing a lot of amazing work with, and I'm the artistic director of the Opera Dagen, the Opera Days Rotterdam,
right.
which is very interesting, and I'm the artistic director of the Rotterdam Street Culture Week. So this is also another festival which goes really into the street culture.
Nice.
And I'm still touring. I'm 35 and I'm dancing, man. I'm in the tour right now, and I'm healthy. I have a nice family life. I'm in contact with my friends. I'm in contact with my family.
Right.
So this is definitely something that I would never have thought of when I was 20.
Above expectation, right?
Yeah, so much.
Yeah.
And this is for me also part of the magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know what's gonna come in the coming years, but just be open.
That's the beauty.
Yes, the beauty. I mean, it doesn't even make sense to go with expectations because, you never know. And I'm very aware of what I have right now is amazing, but tomorrow it can be gone.
Mm-hmm. True.
I don't try to really latch onto it. I try to enjoy the moment, and that's where I'm at right now, man.
Nice, man. Nice to hear that you live beyond your expectations and enjoy everything.
Yeah.
And that you're humbled by it and that you're very appreciative about it and stay with it and keep grinding.
Yeah, man. We'll do.
Nice. Leo, for you.
For me too, like before I got into like the dance culture, I really wasn't sure about what I wanted to do in my life. Anyway, like I didn't really have like a clear direction.
Why? Because you were that outspoken. You always had opinions.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I was like, I mean, I was I could study well, but so I knew like, okay, I was gonna end up somewhere. I did know that. I did believe that.
Yeah.
But I didn't really have like a clear passion for like, okay, I want to achieve this, or I want to be that, or I want to do this career path. And it was actually like when I came into hip hop house, when I came into this crew, paparazzi crew, when I came into the culture, that's when that fire really got lit. Like, yo, this is a whole world, and that's when things started to grow, and also different things that I naturally have a feel for, or started to come together. Hip hop connected a lot of the dots for me. And I think everyone has their own specific strengths and weaknesses, and I think like the most successful or the more happy people in life, they just find a way to create their lives around their strengths, so they can keep doing that,
right.
More. And
so that's what you're trying to do, right?
Yeah, and it's a journey still. And to be honest, I've as you grow, you start putting, creating goals. Think, I want to do that. I want to do that. And a lot of those goals, I achieved. Yeah. And then you start to dream bigger and bigger and bigger, and then you come to a point where the world is your oyster. You know? Yeah. So I mean, and I'm very, very happy to be where I'm at right now, because I feel like I'm in a place full of opportunities. And even though I've done a lot of things I'm proud of, it actually somewhere still feels like, yo, there's so much more to come,
Nice.
So for me, like I do a lot of things, a lot of different things, you know, from basically like Rajiv said, a lot of different things, from dancing to organizing to managing. You know, in my case, I'm the artistic director in Hip Hop House for the program there. I also have a foundation, Dutch Dance League, where I'm the general director of.
A lot of titles, guys. A lot of titles, man.
Title. We ain't talking Jay-Z, no. But yeah. And one thing I've, you know, and with Hip Hop House, basically I see it as that's a place where we basically we give people an entrance into the culture. A lot of people, even us, that's the entrance point. That's where you grow in the culture. Right. And with Dutch Dance League, I see that as that's what I do for when you come at the top of the dance culture. Like that, I'm building an ecosystem for them. Yeah. You know, and aside of that, you know, as a freelancer, I do a lot of, you know, advising, talking, lecturing when it comes around topics as hip hop culture, youth, but also diversity, inclusion, racism. I'm doing that more and more, you know, especially this year, you know, in this Black Lives Matter day and age. Yeah. I feel like that's really something I want to keep doing more.
Keep pushing.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, for me, the dream is I want kids and people of color and all different minorities to be able to grow up and live in a world full of opportunities, full of chances, and basically us as a culture, and I'm talking a culture as in people, the whole Dutch people, that everyone can live in equality and justice and be happy. Nice. And leave all the negative things, the colonization from the past behind us. That's basically the dream. Nice. Yeah.
That's a good quote to end, I think. That's a perfect quote, actually. Guys, I want to thank you. I want to say that I'm very proud of you guys, because I've known you guys from like a very long, like back in the days, and I was a little bit older. You were a little bit younger, so I was already that grown ass guy, and you were still like kids, right? And I see you guys grow from boys like really to men, and it's beautiful. It's nice to see you guys grow and to pursue your personal dreams, but also career wise, see you guys grow like physically, because you guys are very aware of what you're putting into your bodies and putting out. I want to thank you guys for being the pillars that you are in this community. You might not realize it, because when somebody says to me, but you are one of the pillars, I'm like, I am? Yeah, actually it is, because Rashad came into Holland, and he was like, I want it's nice that you come up to me and make a video, because now I'm dancing with somebody who is the pillar of this community. I'm like, the pillar of this community. I felt like a weight, and now I had to dance with this guy in the video. I was like, whoa, this it woke me up, actually.
It's totally true, man.
Yeah, it is.
So I want to thank you guys for being the pillars you are, and the inspiration for me personally, and for a lot of other cats who are coming into this game or are already into this game. So thank you guys for this podcast interview.
Thank you.
Thank you for
taking your time.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah, we might have to do like a part 2, because there's lots more. So thank you guys. Big up, keep grinding, keep doing the good stuff, keep taking and giving, and let's spread some love, man, and some diversity.
Amen.
Yeah? Okay.
Yeah, boy. Yeah.